wanted to ask you about I did want to ask you, sir, about President Biden's nomination of Julie Su for the Labor Department secretary.
All right, but I wanted to talk, and I love Julie. I love Julie. We're going to do our best to go. But let's talk about income and wealth inequality.
Let's move to this clip of Bernie Sanders getting into it with Jen Psaki over making everything about capitalism.
The title of your book, It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism, really did sit with me. It is a memorable book title, Senator. Of all the things voters are angry about, and there are many, abortion, the lack of progress on gun reform, even Clarence Thomas's questionable relationship with a billionaire. I know how you feel about billionaires. Why should capitalism be at the top of that list? Why was that important to be in the title of that book?
Jen, what's important? Abortion is a huge issue. Social justice is a huge issue. But, you know, sometimes the corporate media forgets about it and Congress forgets about it. You and I are chatting today. Do you know that there are tens and tens of millions of Americans who cannot afford health care, who are scared to death that if their kid or their parent gets sick, they don't know what's going to happen? There are people working for starvation wages. There are moms who can't afford to send their kids to decent childcare, can't even find a slot. Those are issues of enormous consequence we don't talk about. Now, you tell me, you got three people on top today who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Is that an issue we should be talking about? Does that sound like we have an economy that works for all of us or just the few? Is that an issue worth discussing?
We're talking about it now, Senator, so I'm happy to have you on. I wanted to ask you about I did want to ask you, sir, about President Biden's nomination of Julie Su for the Labor Department secretary.
All right, but I wanted to talk, and I love Julie. I love Julie. We're going to do our best to go. But let's talk about income and wealth inequality. Let's talk about concentration of ownership. Let's talk about corporate ownership of the media. Do you think that those are issues worth discussing?
Well, Senator, I have you on today. We're having a conversation about all of these issues. I did want to ask you about this because you are chairman of this committee. It is important to have a labor secretary in place, right? There is reporting that suggests the holdouts are Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema. First of all, is that true? And second, what are you saying to them to get them on board? What's the case you're making for her?
Well, look, we have Manchin and Sinema who torpedoed Build Back America. You are slightly familiar with that issue, I think.
So my favorite part about this is that Bernie goes off on this huge rant about the reasons we need to talk about capitalism. It's actually just this huge list of all the things government has broken. And he's been in government for the past 250 years. I don't know how old he is. He's old. He's been there forever. And he lists all these industries that have been completely broken by government intervention into the market, which is his sole purpose in life, is for more government intervention into the market. And the total disconnect in this man's logic and his understanding of how things work, it is astounding. I'd blame dementia, but he's been like this as far back as I can remember.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Biden excuse. No, it is. There's the surface level funny of this, which is we need to be angry about capitalism, and that's why you need to buy my book on Amazon now. But then there's the deeper level of irony to this, that most of the things he cites here, all of the things he cites, are not examples of unbridled capitalism. For example, healthcare is it's not really a market, most of it. Portions of it are. Most of it's government healthcare at this point. The rest is highly regulated and subsidized. It's nothing close to a free market. And the few niche areas within healthcare that are free markets, for example, LASIK eye surgery services, have actually become radically more affordable over time as the technology advances through innovation, and then there's competition to get the prices lower. But then the broken, bloated mess that we have for our healthcare system is not capitalist at all, really. And then same with, he talks about wages not going so far and people having starvation wages. Well, maybe that's because they don't have education opportunity. They're being failed by a government monopoly on education in most parts of the country. And two, their paychecks are worth a heck of a lot less than they were because of runaway inflation from your massive big government policies. So the whole thing, and childcare too, it's a little more complicated. I don't know that much about that, but I know places where I've lived in the past required college degrees to be a childcare worker. The government required that. They have all these ways they make it more expensive as well. So it's also not unbridled capitalism, but the whole thing, it's like old man yells at cloud. He wants to make everything about his communist issues. He's so upset about the idea that some people have more money than others. which is not even inherent. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but some of it's due to corruption, like crony capitalism and them rigging the system for the elite. And he has some right to be mad about that. But most people's problems today are not because Jeff Bezos has a lot of money. Like, that is not why people have problems. It's much more to do with things in their own lives and ways they're being held back, the way their paycheck's been eroded by inflation and confiscated through taxation, and the housing market made too expensive by government failure after government failure. It's like, it's not because Jeff Bezos is rich, because he built an amazing company that services Americans every single day with wonders that people couldn't have imagined just a few decades ago. It's like he's just obsessed with class envy and class warfare is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, and I think as a whole, the whole grift of getting rich off of blaming capitalism in this country continues to be lucrative for people. But it's really one of the main reasons I launched Based. Initially, I really did want people to learn how to think and how to find the root problems of issues, because I think people like Bernie Sanders are really good at saying, there's a problem here, this is wrong, this is broken, but they're really bad at coming up with solutions. And if you don't understand what causes the problems, you're going to be misled by absolute hacks like this, right? And you're going to be hoodwinked into supporting the very thing that created the problem in the first place. And that's my main issue with Bernie, is that he gets the actual problems correct, but his solution is the same things that broke the system in the first place. And he continues to get richer while you get poorer, because he's found a grift on all of this. So that's why I have no love lost on this old man.
No, and it is funny how over the course of this interview, I watched the full thing, not just the clip we showed you. He gets very angry with Jen Psaki, and then it's like when you've lost MSNBC, right? When you're mad at MSNBC for not being progressive enough. Now, they are on like foreign policy and stuff. They're pretty establishment and war hockey, but like generally they're pretty progressive. And he's like, can't stand how corporate they are and how they're not mad enough about capitalism. And it's like, dude. Yikes.